Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Show. This is Scotland's number one. What's that noise? Scotland's number one anti-nationalist show, politics and chat show. Sorry about that. The strange noise was in the way there. Anyway, I'm the host, Mark Devlin. I'm here tonight with my co-hosts, David Griffiths and Mary Devlin. How are you both tonight?
All good down here on the coast, enjoying the continuing unexpected good weather and taking plenty of bracing seaside walks. Marvellous.
Well, there you go.
Sounds
And
lovely.
Mary, how are you doing, actually?
I'm doing well. I had a sore throat, but that's all gone now. And thank you to everyone for your nice wishes last week. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm as right as rain, so
Good.
anyway, right. Okay, David, so what are you going to be talking about tonight?
Well, I'll be looking at a possible outcome from the Holyrood election in 2026, a little bit of a theory that's been put my way, just to discuss.
Okay, Mary, what have you got for us?
Tonight, I'm going to be talking about Russell Findlay, the new leader of the Scottish Conservatives.
Oh, yes, that is a good topic. And we'll all be talking with a special guest, Craig Houston, about the strange case of Humza Yousaf's Gaza emails, and who is also will be talking about who is behind suspicious pro-independence bot farms on Twitter. And surprisingly, these are possibly two related questions. And of course, Mary, what else do we have?
We have Zoomer of the Week.
Yay! Okay, so we're back with all that and much more in just a few moments. Right, welcome back to the Majority Show, Scotland's number one politics chat. I'm Mark Devlin, and we are here every Wednesday night, 7 p.m, to talk about Scottish issues. Our aim at the Majority is a thriving Scotland without the toxic nationalism that has been strangling our country's potential. I'm here tonight with Mark, with Mary, and with David. Anyway, as always, a huge thanks to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages, where many of you are watching from tonight.
And remember, sharing is caring. The best thing you can do is to like the show on YouTube, and even if you don't subscribe, drop a like. And if you can subscribe, please do so to increase the reach of the show at the click of one button.
And as usual, I'll be managing the relentless flow of comments. So please keep them short and snappy, and I'll try to put as many up on screen as I can.
Right, very good. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to bring on Craig Houston, who many of you will know as a friend of the show. Hi, Craig. How are you today?
Hi there. Very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me back again. I'm sober this time.
Well, hopefully not for long. I've been hearing big things about your Facebook channel, and it's been going very well. Is that true?
Yeah, YouTube. It's up to over 40,000 subscribers now, which, to be fair, since it accelerated with the political stuff, probably about November last year. So not quite a year, and we're getting an audience, and I'm starting to get like Americans and all that, and I don't even understand how they would know what I'm talking about, because anytime I go to America, I need to repeat my order for a beer and a pizza about 4 times. But there's a lot of people from all over the world now watching it, which is pretty bizarre.
Well, that's pretty good. Right. So anyway, you've been working on this story about Humza Yousaf and his emails around October 7th last year. And as we all know, Humza Yousaf's relations were trapped in Gaza after going there against Foreign Office advice. And this week, though, the Telegraph reported that the former First Minister's private office tried to lobby Foreign Office officials and ministers about the plight of the parents. Yousaf, it says here, Yousaf had a phone call with James Cleverly, who was the Foreign Secretary at the time, on November the 1st, and was told his family had been added to the priority list of British citizens trying to flee. He was then given the news 2 days later that the El Naklas, his in-laws, had been given safe passage via the Rafah crossing. It was also revealed that he had earlier secured a call with Lord Ahmed, the Middle East Minister, on October 10th. I didn't even know there was a Middle East minister. Anyway, that was 3 days after the attack, and they discussed the ongoing situation, specifically regards to his parents-in-law. Now, we all know this seems to be a mix of business and pleasure. I wanted to say that family and business, which is not using his position incorrectly. Stephen Kerr, Conservative MP for Scotland, said, "Of course, I understand the human dimension of this, but it appears that Humza Yousaf has clearly sailed right over the line in breach of the ministerial code. There are questions to answer." But specifically during this document dump, you've brought attention to, Craig, to two emails. And is this is part of your ongoing investigation into Humza's donations?
Yeah, I mean, I've been curious about this particular thing since towards the end of last year. I sent off some FOIs, and it created a bit of a stir. The Telegraph wrote a story about my FOIs back in the early spring, and I've been continually trying to dig up what I can. Because you put your head above the parapet, people now go, well, that guy, Craig, he's the guy that's after Humza and these things. So that attracts a lot of information coming my way, and that seems to be what happens when you put your head above the parapet and shout. People who maybe have not got the same ability or platform give you information. And
sure, that's what happens to David, actually, with his electoral information. But specifically that information, your earlier Freedom of Information request were about the donations that were paid to UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, whatever it is. And now we've seen, at the time, it wasn't so obvious that was deeply linked to Hamas, but now it seems pretty clear, especially with even the other day, Israel targeted the guy in Beirut, and he was the head of the teachers' union, and also he was handling a liaison between Hamas and Hezbollah. Anyway, so how was it kind of was this new information? Was it something you kind of expected to see, or is it just?
It came by me. I was given the information by someone who had it and allowed me access to their documents. And it was a nice follow up, because the first lot was basically about how and why we made this donation, because Humza in the original stuff that I put out had asked the ministers if they could give more money to Gaza, because his request was the children in Gaza have no fresh water. So they took that on board. They asked the Department of External Affairs for guidance on it. They recommended that UNICEF at the time were actually raising money for a clean water campaign. So it made sense to give that money. The ministers then made the decision, £200,000 will go to UNICEF for their clean water campaign, specifically for Gaza. And then Humza overturned that. And he put one of the most damning things I had in the first tranche of emails was an email from him to his private office saying, no, I'll be giving £250,000 and I'll be giving it to UNRWA because I'm meeting them next week. And then the last sentence on the email said, we'll worry about the financial implications later, or budgetary and things. So that was email one. And then, so that was a load of stuff about a few months ago. And then the stuff that we got this time, there was 88 pages of documents. So there's more than that documents, because some of them had like 2 and 3 emails per page. So it's quite a pile of stuff. But a lot of the stuff had already been out. But the first thing I picked up on was an email, because of the time and stamp on it. It was 7th of October at 8:25 a.m. And first of all, I thought, well, that must be wrong. It must be PM. But then it spoke about, morning phone calls and things. And that was an email from Humza's personal secretary to the director of the Department of External Affairs.
Okay, I'll just bring that one up on the screen so people can see it, or pause or whatever, and have a look at it here. Just go talk us through it.
Yeah. So the first thing that caught my attention was the date, 7th of October, 8:25 a.m. And then on that, I can't just see it because I'm looking at a small screen, but it mentions 2 telephone calls. It thanks the man for his time in his call earlier when the personal secretary, Chris Mackey's, saying to the director of the Department of External Affairs. So he thanks him for his telephone call earlier. It then makes comment about a telephone call prior to that Humza made to him. It also has got details of 2 passports, which are obviously redacted, but it mentions them. And it says that Humza was concerned with developments overnight. all those little things made me sort of concerned that so when did the first phone call get made? The timescale between the two phone calls, the fact that he's managed to get the details of the passports to his personal secretary, this was obviously all before 8:25. And I'm thinking, this is a Saturday morning. And how difficult are these people to get a hold of? So when did Humza first know about this? And what did he know? And how did he find out? But since putting the video out, I've then considered something else. His parents had been in Gaza for a long time. Sorry, parents-in-law. They had been to Gaza a lot of times, frequent visitors. This wouldn't have been the first time where there was a rocket fired or a bit of bother at the border. So for him to at that time have so much information, to have at 8:20 prior to 8:25 a.m. have enough information to be concerned for his in-laws' safety and try and start the ball rolling and getting them evacuated from that situation. It kind of worries. I think, why? There must have been 100 incidents when they've been in.
Well,
Gaza.
I think that's a good point. But I mean, the timing. Let's just go. We can go through the timing a little bit more clearly. Basically, at 5 a.m. British time, on 7th of October, that's when Hamas troops, terrorists invaded Israel. And so basically that time, it's 5 a.m. So by 8:25 a.m., Humza Yousaf's private secretary he'd emailed the UK Foreign Office and already mentioned two earlier calls, right? So basically 2 hours after it started happening, even the Israelis didn't really know what was going on at that time. This is, I mean, it took until 12 o'clock our time, I think, for them to even say that there had been an invasion. Let's call it an invasion. And so, I mean, this is very. It just seems very weird, right? Because as you say, if he hadn't, why in this particular case would he know that this was really serious? Perhaps,
Yeah. There was another comment about developments overnight. Well, what developments overnight? And it's quite bizarre because I'm guessing the four of us are quite active in social media. And my recollection of that day, it was about lunchtime before we started understanding that this was more than just a wee skirmish at the border or a missile getting fired over. But he had enough information to suggest this must be so serious, I need to get them out of here. Now, there's been 2 telephone calls, 2 passports been, with all the details found somewhere, and the length of time, just to compile an email takes a few minutes. But, the 2 phone calls, I would imagine prior to 8:25 on a Saturday morning, that these people would have been sitting up waiting for a call. And the other thing is people saying, but the New York Times put this out at 7 o'clock UK time. Well, that's fine. Was Humza sitting with his app out on the New York Times waiting for information? And again, even the initial stuff was there's a few rockets been fired. There's a bit of carry on over, just across the fences. Why then go, hold on a minute, I need to get Majid and the mother-in-law out of here? It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about an incursion into Israel. How does it then follow that will mean that Israel will automatically have a retaliatory strike immediately into Gaza? How do you even know these people were from Gaza? How would he know that? All he knew was it happened. So, on the surface anyway, unless he had prior information directly from where.
Well, then that takes us on to the kind of the second email that you pointed out here. Let me just try and get this one up as well. Right. Okay. Well,
and it's unusual to have your parents-in-law's passport details to hand.
Well, maybe there's possible
that?
That they might have known there could be something happen and that they would need help.
It was all kind of quiet, though, wasn't it? Everything was quiet when that happened.
Yeah, there wasn't very much going on. Okay, let's have a look at this second email here. We have this one here.
This one is even more disturbing for me because the timing and what it says. Now, the first line is, we contacted 2 of your constituencies this morning. I'm looking at that 100 times thinking, what do they mean? I think what it is, it's a foreigner using a second language. So it means something else, it doesn't make sense otherwise. And they've contacted you to blah, blah, blah. They're asking, is Humza's wife's parents still in Gaza? We've got guys on the ground escorting people out of the region, right? And if we could give any assistance. So I'm going, hold on a minute. This is 4 days after this. Now, if you all remember, you couldn't even get aid into Gaza at this point. Remember, all the stuff was stockpiled up. So this must have been some group of people who have got men on the ground prior to the 7th of October. And if you try and, excuse me, whittle it down to how many groups that could be, They've got boots on the ground before the 7th. They're able, in a war zone, to escort people, groups of people, to safety. I would think that's only 2 possible groups in the world, one being UN, RWA, and the other one being Hamas. And some people might argue that that's actually only one group. I'll leave that argument to others.
Yes, indeed.
But so if there's any other groups who are in that position to make that offer, then please enlighten me. I would be delighted to hear from you. Now, if that is the case, that's the 11th of October. Now, when you do an FOI, they are duty-bound to give you all the responses as well as the emails. There is no response to this email in any of the FOIs. So that tells me we either didn't reply to that, honestly, am I meant to believe that? Or there was a reply, but we ain't seen it, right? And then if you consider the timing, this is the 11th of October. Someone is offering to take his parents to safety. And on the 14th of October, 72 hours later, the Scottish Government paid UN RWA £500,000. Now, those are 2 separate facts that may be separate. I can't tell you what if those 2 things are well,
it's not just that. It's that the as you mentioned earlier, there was the Humza Yousaf intervened specifically to send that money to instead of going to
that was the second tranche, the 250,000 that came about a week or 2 later. But the facts are Scottish Government £500,000 to UNRWA, and this group that we don't know who it is. Right. But I think it's down to a possible pool of 2 groups that had the ability to take people out of that area to safety at that specific time in the whole timeline of events. Now, if there's another group in there at any time, then please somebody shout and tell me, but I cannot think of any other groups other than Hamas themselves or the UNRWA that could fill the criteria of that email. Boots on the ground, take folk to safety, and they'd obviously been in there before the 7th of October because nobody, not even the Israelis, had entered Gaza by the 11th of October.
Well, that's a very good. That is a very good point. So
and
now,
here's one of these comments. Weird how Humza's mother-in-law just so happened to get planted in Gaza just in time to become an English-speaking sympathy baiter, slowing Israel down.
Well, that's
people have different opinions.
People have different opinions. I'm not saying that conspiracies are true, but sometimes they are. I mean, the point is, like what Craig is doing here is he's uncovering the evidence as he sees it and asking the questions is what we should do in a democracy. Anyway, we should say, right, what's this all about then? This seems to be suspicious stuff. And certainly when someone is holding political office, and certainly in the case of someone who holds the highest political office in the country, then their actions are subject to public scrutiny. And that's what this is about. Now, just to wrap up a little bit with this about talking about emails and stuff like that, is but what's this thing about the brother? I've been reading this stuff. Is the brother? What's going on there? Is something a bit of a weird story.
This is where it gets weird and wonderful, right? Nadia talks about her brother Mohammed, who is the doctor that works in a UNRWA-controlled hospital, which is generally where Hamas have their hideouts and HQs and things, right? And how after the mum and dad get out, the next thing in her agenda was to get him and his wife and the 4 kids out. And I thought that shouldn't be a problem because if he's your brother, he's UK citizen, that must be the easiest thing in the world to sort out. Then I looked and thought, well, hold on a minute, what's going on here? Now, she also talks about her stepmum in Gaza, which I'm guessing is Mohammed's mum, and her dad and his dad are the same man, Majid El Nakla. So it looks as if he is a stepbrother, which is fine. Some people, half brother, rather.
Sure.
But to call something, so what you would normally find is, he's currently married to her mum, so you would think he had a wife before. That's who she refers to as stepmum, and her half brother she refers to brother. That's normal. But look at the photographs of him, and look at the photographs of her. They're either the same age, or he actually looks younger. So what I think's happening here is, old Majid has got the Scottish mum here and the Gaza mum over there. I think he's got 2 wives because if it was a step, if he was 5-10 years older looking than Nadia, then you would go, yeah, I kind of get that. That makes sense. He had a relationship in Gaza, and he then met her mum. But The brother, if I was putting good money on it, I would kind of say that he's a younger brother and Majid's a dad and Majid's got 2 wives. And there's another thing that's came to my attention that I'm digging, and they might be not connected whatsoever, but there's a very, very naughty man called Zaid El Nakla, who looks slightly younger and slightly familiar to Majid. And Zaid El Nakla is one of the most horrible men ever to leave Palestine. And he's been sentenced to life imprisonment previously by the Israelis for his actions against them in one of the first wars, the El Fadada, whatever it's called. He was jailed for life, and then he'd done a prisoner swap and he got out. Then he joined and he got given the job to rebuild one of the brigades in Palestine, and then he fled to Lebanon. And he's in some of the what do you want to call them? Secret Service lists as one of the most serious and wanted terrorists in the world. And his name is Zaid El Nakla. Her dad is Majid El Nakla. Her brother is Mohammed El Nakla. Now, I'm quite sure, though, in Palestine, which is where Majid was also born, the same place as Zaid, that there's a lot of people that look very, very similar that you could confuse for brothers or cousins, and go by the name El Nakla. Now, some of them, surprisingly, as they go through time, change the spelling of El Nakla as well, which I believe is quite normal, and there's no reason we should feel suspicious about that whatsoever.
Right. Okay. Yes, all right. Okay. David, you got something to say on that?
No, not really. Just to say it's all highly questionable, all of this. I mean, the work Craig just done here is terrific, and it stinks to high heaven, as it has done since day one. It looks, if you were an impartial observer and you were saying, what would your reading of this be? You would say, well, it looks like the First Minister of Scotland, the then First Minister, had inside information pertaining to an incursion into Israel by a terrorist group. And it looks like he knew exactly what was going on even before it happened. That's what it looks like. Whether rightly or wrongly, and it looks like some of his in-laws are potentially related to some very, very unpleasant people indeed. It further looks also like a lot of payments have been made, and shortly thereafter, some relatives, or albeit through marriage, of Scotland's First Minister have magically been able to leave a war zone. That's what it looks like. I'm not suggesting that's the case, but that is certainly the impression one might deduce from listening to all of this.
Yeah, well, it's very thing. I'm just, amazed by the ungratefulness of the entire Yousaf family. Basically, his father came over from Pakistan, I think, in the 60s, and took advantage of all the opportunities of the UK. That's why he came over, and then immediately joined the SNP and set about trying to break up the country. And then when his relatives, when even after in this situation, we had when Humza Yousaf's relatives were rescued, or he went begging to the UK office, as you see in these emails, UK Foreign Office, to try and get them out. He didn't thank the British government at all. And more than that, he still continues to want to break up the UK. They are, in my opinion, ungrateful bastards. Now, some might say it's not actually a matter of them being ungrateful, that it's actually planned. And actually, we begin to see more and more the machinations of what's going on in the Middle East, that it's not actually as straightforward as some plucky Palestinians trying to fight the Israeli machine, but it's actually been orchestrated by Iran. We're going to see a little bit more about what are the tentacles that Iran has and Muslim supremacists have across the entire Western world. And I think this is going to be more and more exposed as time goes on. Now, Craig has done a great job here in the investigative reporting. Where do you think it's going to lead from here?
I'll probably get a lot of parking tickets pulled over by cops and get all my personal private stuff looked at a wee bit closer than a normal human being. I'm standing for election in 2026. I can imagine the SNP will not want me anywhere near Holyrood. And because I'm like a dog with a bone, I could probably imagine when we get closer to the time, whoever fancies being the next government will probably be thinking, I don't want him anywhere near the place either. So I'm expecting my life to get a bit busy over the next 18 months. But David knows me through work I've done of old and an old campaign that I was involved in. And that one saw me arrested 4 times, my life threatened. Police gave me an Osmond warning and taught me skills about how to lose people that are tailing me. And I was sued for £200,000 and it didn't stop me. So I'm kind of
I think that's a long way to continue in your bone searching activity or bone gnawing activity. Anyway, this is a great thing. Now, thank you very much for you coming onto the show tonight. Thank you, and also I see many people coming from your channel who come
we have record numbers tonight.
Record numbers, so
over 1,300.
But if you haven't been on Craig's channel, please do subscribe to that. It's really great, and he puts out tons of stuff, which is in short bites and easy to understand, and great stuff. What can we say?
Thanks for the invite and your hospitality as usual. And I apologise for election night. I did get a wee bit carried away, and I did have too much whiskey while we were on. So I apologise if I said anything.
He didn't get half as carried away as I did when the North Ayrshire result came in.
That's right, got that. Yes, it's great to have you on, and we'll have you on again soon anyway.
Thanks,
no problem, Phil. Humza gets my Zoomer of the Week vote if you're having one this week.
Right,
all right, guys?
It's a possibility he might be there. All right, see you later. And
thanks again, guys. Carry on.
All right,
thanks, Craig. Bye.
Right, so a great section there with Craig Houston. Please do follow him on YouTube and Twitter, wherever it is. Now, going to take a short break. I'm going to come back and talk about who's behind these suspicious bot farms on Twitter. Okay, so where are we? All right. Right, if you haven't been in this show before, what we do is politics from an anti-national. That means we don't like the SNP, Alba, or the Greens. That's the basics of it. We don't want them, and we don't. It's not so much they're the symptom. The disease is not Scottish nationalism, and beyond that, there is the psychologies that drive Scottish nationalism, and that's what we're against. We're trying to find out about those and uncover them, and to stop that. How was Scotland such a place where grifters could come in and split us using these nationalist tropes? I expect to have Serbian nationalists or Croatians and stuff like that. Why does it happen here? Anyway, that's what we're doing. Talking about divisive stuff. Actually, no, before we get to it, it says donation message. If you do like what we do, please donate. You can donate in super sticker, super thanks on YouTube. You can buy a t-shirt in a shop, and you can go to our website, majority.scot, and put a donation in there. Or just subscribe. We like subscribers. If you can't even do that, just like likes. Right, anyway. So as many of our viewers will know, there's a lot of nationalist activity on Twitter. And there was, I suppose, until the recent general election. And then since then, nationalists have generally been quiet. But a few well-known accounts continue with their nuttery. And I think some people were like, "Oh, why are these accounts still going? They seem very. Why are they so cheerful? Why are they so cheerfully pushing this nonsense?" So one, for example, is this one here from this lady, Isla McGregor, here, and you'll see it here. Raise your hand if you're tired of this effing union. What Scotland's coming to Scotland if we don't get independence? Scotland hasn't given up on freedom. Blah blah blah. It's all Scotland needs you. You see all this thing here. There's a whole bunch of things. Actually, this one's quite interesting here.
And who is this person?
Bitter fact. This one is tax people here. See that? Tax people giving tax money to Netanyahu and Zelensky. Okay. Yep. And of course, here's some Palestinian, pro-Palestinian messages, of course, anti-monarchy stuff as well. This is just one of these accounts. Anyway, David, have you seen these people? You must have seen them.
All throughout the election campaign, I was calling it out because these, much like the ones you've just shown, these are they have very specific characteristics, most of them anyway, which they share. For example, there's always a profile photo of a beautiful youngish woman, clearly not Scottish, because people like that don't live in Scotland. Great respect to every female watching. These are like Hollywood.
Yeah, that's a picture there.
Yep, and then
the cat.
Exactly.
True.
And then you've got a really over-the-top Scottish name, like you said, like Flora McDougall or something.
Yes.
And the Twitter username will be @Flora268826. And nobody would
Yes.
use that. No, it's obviously a bot. And they always use pros, much like you've seen there. Like, for example, it might be the sort of pros used by someone for whom English is not their first language. And it will say something like, it'll be some meme or other, and it will say, Scotland would be better independent. What is your thoughts? Or something, half English.
Yes.
Like that. Guys, and this is a young woman from Edinburgh. Yeah, of course it is. This is as transparent as Fraser's window. I mean, it's just, we know what's going on here. It's people trying to push this narrative for a particular reason, and it's as fake as anything you've ever seen. 100%.
Yeah, we've got a lot of these kind of nonsense narratives going on anyway. Right now, it seems their biggest trope is, the UK isn't a country. Drive you daft, this. We seem to think that, by saying the UK is a country, it isn't a country, and that Scotland somehow is a country. So Scotland deserves to be independent because the UK isn't a real country. It's like, it's just lunatics.
Yes.
It makes them sound like lunatics. Anyway, so I think a lot of us have just either blocked them or put them to the side.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we had suspicions about them. But today, a report by the Media Forensics Lab at Clemson University in South Carolina shows that these accounts are actually all connected, and they're all run by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. I was thinking that's right.
Corps, yeah.
So basically, all of these messages are being pushed in support of Iranian goals.
Yeah.
And this isn't us making this up. Here is the report is here. This was made independently of anyone in Scotland. Here called "What's Hiding Under the Kilt," and basically they go through it and how they've measured it, how they found them, how all the similarities, when they were popular, and so on. And these are for example, that's the profile pictures, and anyway, it goes on like that. And basically, the authors of the report, two professors, I think, in this university, basically say that these posts all follow the same thing. They've all post messages support left-leaning political views. They attack Conservative politicians. They back the Scottish National Party. And this is the important bit, actually. They all denounce Israel and its behaviour in the ongoing war in Gaza. So, in other words, first of all, the first point is that Iran has been using fake Scottish nationalists to destabilise the UK. That's the number one thing, right? And I'm going to maybe mention a bit more about that. But the other point I think is really interesting is that they've been putting out these accounts have got hundreds of thousands of followers. So maybe 250,000 followers, they say, right? So hundreds of thousands of Scots have followed and interacted with these accounts, not knowing they've been set up with by Iran. So, okay, fair enough. A Scottish nationalist follows it. And they say, okay, Isla McGregor is saying, we hate the English, all this type of nonsense, right? And then it's kind of reinforcement. But inside those messages, right, they embed all this anti-Israel hate, right? So basically, what we've done is this is why so many Scottish nationalists support Gaza and support terrorists. It's because it's being pushed by Iran through social media channels. It's absolutely unbelievable, and I think this is. I actually think this is a national scandal, and it should be investigated by not just the Scottish Parliament, but by the UK Parliament. Iranian influence, trying not only to break up the UK, but to poison Scottish minds against Israel, which is an ally of our country, and to promote the aims of Iran, which just sent 200 ballistic missiles into Israel. It's insane. Absolutely insane. David, I mean, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll look at what you've just said. For example, Iran launched 200 missiles into Israel last night. Why? Because Israel invaded Lebanon. What the hell's that got to do with Iran? Exactly. Nowhere near Iran. Why would they bother? And it's because Lebanon and Hezbollah have been there, if you like, the people who have helped to protect Iran's nuclear capability from attack by Israel. That's why they've done it. So Iran has been outraged by this because this move of Israel in going into Lebanon makes it, and wiping out the whole of the Hezbollah command structure, means that Iran's nuclear capability is now, if you like, exposed to attack from Israel. And let's hope they manage to take it out, because we certainly don't want a country like Iran having a nuclear capability. But what it looks like, exactly as you said, it's like an attempt to break up the UK. And I had no idea this was Iran. I thought it was Russia. Because
that's right. I mean, that's what we thought. Well, it could well be funded by Russia through Iran.
Absolutely right, because of course Iran's sole ally in the whole world really is Russia. I mean, you look at the Middle East now, Saudi Arabia surreptitiously supports Israel, is the case. So that's true. So it sounds bizarre, but it's true. Nobody likes Iran. Iran are just bullies. They're the country that's destabilized the entire region, and it goes back to the late 70s when Ayatollah Khomeini took over and all this stuff happened, that they reintroduced this Islamic fundamentalism, and that's what's destabilized the whole region ever since. And of course, that's all riven with factional disputes. So it's made the Middle East look like third world desert, appalling.
Well, see, the thing is that these countries, like the Palestinians, well, it's not really the Palestinians if you think about it, but they depend on gullible Westerners falling for their nonsense, right? And basically saying, oh, the poor Palestinian civilians, or the 40,000 civilians dead, and all this type of stuff, pushed out through social media channels like Isle McGregor's going to Scots.
Yep.
Right? And then that puts political pressure on Israel not to act.
Yep.
Right. So we've got this whole thing. It's not like we're not involved. These accounts, right? It says here these accounts are responsible for 4% of the talk about Scottish independence before the general election, the beginning part of this year.
Is China not involved as well? Isn't it China, Russia, and Iran?
Well, they are, but it's not overt. It's not. I think China is just in the background. But what I'm trying to say here is that, this isn't a small thing. This is 1 in 20 posts, and often the most vocal posts there, going out to hundreds of thousands of Scots, poisoning their minds against Israel. And this is the key. I think this is where it all starts. It all feels like I'm not a conspiracist, but this is clear evidence that Iran is trying to push this. Now, wouldn't it be the same? Wouldn't they also be trying to push their agents, perhaps, into our society to also stand up for Gaza's civilians, and who go on TV every day and say, 40,000 people have died, when actually it's been only terrorists who have died?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean,
they'll be looking for all the soft spots in Western defence, right?
Yes, they will.
And Scotland being so divided is a soft spot, because they know if independence comes along, then the defence of the whole of the UK is in jeopardy.
So basically, we've been playing. We're playing. We're in this game, right? And of this geopolitical game, and we're patsies. Or many Scots are patsies in it, and they're like, "Oh yes, this is here's Isla. She's standing up for us, and she's not doing anything of the sort." Now, I've asked our followers on social media to investigate which MSPs, nationalist MSPs, subscribe to those accounts.
Yeah,
and then we'll see, right? Because I'm pretty certain if 250,000 people follow them, certainly they're going to be that is going to include MSPs and so on, which means they're being directly influenced, choosing actually to be directly influenced by Iranian propaganda. This report has got nothing to do with Scotland in the sense that no Scottish person commissioned it.
Yeah.
No political party commissioned it. It's a complete research project, and they just found out that it was happening.
What it proved, I mean, that's fantastic find. I mean, these guys have obviously just been investigating Iran over in whatever it is, Carolina, and they've seen, my God, look at how interested they are in the Scottish political scene. And this is why it is. It's like I always say, Russia in the post-war years was trying hard to sow and foment unhappiness and disputes in Britain's industrial output. They were trying to make sure that no Western European nation would ever be strong again. And that's why you had strikes all the time. And we're getting strikes again now for the first time in decades. Now, and so you have to think, what is the end game here? It's got to be to try to destabilize what they see as an enemy. That has to be. And certainly Iran's involved. Certainly Russia will be involved if Iran is involved. And
many people will say that China is doing the same thing through TikTok. One of the statistics I read actually during the week was that so many young women are anti-Israel because of memes and videos on TikTok. That's the prime reason.
I believe that. And you see,
which is owned by China. Right?
You see so many young people in these rallies and on demonstrations, and they're parroting all this stuff about an issue they clearly know nothing about. The way they see it is Israel is killing civilians in Gaza, therefore Israel is wrong. Therefore, free Palestine, therefore let's have the river to the sea. And all it just leads on from that. But what it shows, these should be seen in the same way as cyber attacks on institutions should be seen, because that's what they are. It's just that nobody's stealing money here. What they're doing is stealing political views. That's what they're doing. So this is crime. It's cyber crime. That's what these things, that's how they should be classified and investigated. I quite agree.
Well, I think, as I said, we think we should be, this is a level of national scandal. It should be brought up in UK Parliament, and we'll be contacting several MSPs and MPs to get this on the agenda. This is absolutely unbelievable, especially given the current circumstances in the world. Now, okay, as it says here, it's bad enough grifters like Alex Salmond trying to divide our country. But, Iran, I mean, for God's sake.
Yes,
let's take a break, and we'll come back to David, who's going to be talking about a 2026 Holyrood election. Excuse me. Okay. Right. Thank you for being with us on Like what you see, please come back and say hello on the chat. Come back next week. We'll get always more new things. And please, you can also stay tuned to the end of the show where we have Zoomer of the Week. With the panel will choose the various nominations for the craziest person in Scottish politics, or craziest item in Scottish politics. Now, David, tell us more about this election we're supposed to have in 2026.
Indeed. Well, as we will be aware, in I think it's now 19 months' time, as we're now in October.
Well, it's coming up, isn't it?
Indeed. There will be an election in Holyrood. And last week we discussed some of the likely outcomes. Obviously, the reform spanner in the works could cause a lot of change to the normal outcome of an election in Scotland, and I would imagine guys like Craig will be standing for parties like Reform. So we'll see. Anyway,
I thought he was going to be an independent. I think he likes Reform.
I think it'll be a party. Indeed, it will be. What I mean is, it will be a party that normally wouldn't get very many seats, be it Reform, be it the Independents, or whoever else. It will be a
right. Okay, right. So I think to be clear, you have to be clear.
For sure, I'm not saying I have no idea who's Craig's standing for. Genuinely, I don't know. But it'll be a party that wouldn't previously have garnered a lot of votes or seats. So I would think.
Okay.
Just to have a look at where we are now, because we talked about the numbers last week kind of unexpectedly, and I didn't have the numbers at my fingertips, as Nicola Sturgeon used to keep saying. So just very quickly, I'll go through. There are quite a lot of numbers here, but just bear with me. In terms of right now where we sit, the constituency seats by party in Holyrood, the SNP has 61, which was from 47.7% of the vote. They're now polling at 31%. So there's a significant drop in the SNP's vote share. Conservative, 5 seats in constituencies from 21.9%. They're now, Conservatives now polling at 13%. It's another massive drop, really. Labour's different. They had only 2 seats in constituencies on 21.6. They're now polling at 31. So a big jump there. Reform from nothing are at 9%. Okay. The outlier here is the Lib Dems. They only got 6.9% of the constituency vote, like with 4 seats. Quite incredible. And they're now polling at 8%. They'll probably get 5 seats with that. Greens get nothing because they didn't get enough vote share. They're now on 6%. That won't get them a seat either. And then the Alba is simply not a factor. And in the list, similar sort of story. The SNP get 2 seats only because they won so many constituency seats. And if you win constituencies, that hampers you, handicaps you in the list. They only won 2 list seats, but on 40.3% of the vote. Now they're on 28% of the vote. So again, another big drop. Conservatives, similarly, they get most of their seats on the list because they won almost all constituency seats. 26 they won on 23.5% of the vote. They're now polling at 14, so almost half again. Labour was on 120 with 17.9%. They're now up at 26. And the big one is that Reform from nothing's on 10%. Greens on 8 seats with 8% of the vote. They're now polling at 10%. And the Lib Dems won't probably get any seats in the list. They very rarely do. And what does this all mean, guys? That's a lot of stats there, so forgive me. What it means is the constituencies will almost certainly be a Labour versus SNP shootout again in most seats. Reform with 10% of the vote in constituencies, I still don't think it's enough to get them a seat. I'd be very, very surprised if Reform wins a seat, simply because there isn't a single seat you could say, now there's a seat Reform will win. Where? Which one? I just can't see it. We'll keep watching it in time, but that's my feeling. The list would be extremely keenly contested, mainly due to the fact that most of the SNP seats are going to come from the list this time, which will have an impact on everyone else's number of list seats. Labour will make gains in the constituencies unquestionably, and they'll probably make gains in the list also, unless, of course, Starmer carries on the way he's going, in which case who knows what will happen with Labour. Conservatives may retain the 5 seats they've got. They'll certainly lose less seats, no doubt. Lib Dems will hold their constituencies. They'll probably gain another one, whatever East Renfrewshire is called in Holyrood. And then the Greens will hold the majority of their seats. But because it's such a bun fight, even though their vote share goes up, their number of seats might go down. Alba will not feature. What do you? That's my thought, Mark. Any thoughts? Those are my thoughts. Any?
Well, I mean, it seems okay in the face of it, doesn't it? I mean, the thing we talked about last time was reform, and there was an article. I was actually going to mention this in the next segment, but I'm going to mention it here. There's an article. Was it yesterday? By our favourite journalist Kenny Farquharson. And in the Times, and here he said that new Scottish Tory leader's mortal enemy is Nigel Farage, right? Because basically it's going to be some kind of bun fight between the two of them. Yeah. And I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the case. I mean, I think he asked a question there that they've managed to get, basically said, if this is what Farage has got so far, without even coming basically to Scotland, then what would he get next? What did he say? Yeah, if this is what Farage can do without trying, what will happen when he actually makes an effort? But the question here is, not question, but the answer to that is, will Farage actually make any effort in Scotland?
Yes.
They just had a party conference. They didn't mention Scotland at all in it. Yep. They still don't have a Scotland strategy. They don't even have a UK strategy really, other than anti-immigration and so on. So, stuff you expect, and that is under attack. Now I read an article today. Yvette Cooper was saying that the small boats was down. It was marginally down. But there's a chance that whole issue may well go away in the next year. In fact, I would expect it to go away. The media probably will not focus on it if they want Labour to continue to get better results. So, and then of course we talked before about the Reform's deputy chairman, who still hasn't repudiated the idea that he would. His statement said he would vote for independence that came again. So, what I'm trying to get at is there's no strategy behind it. There's a protest. There's a protest vote. But surely Scotland's a bit tired of protest votes. SNP were a protest vote, and look where it got us. And it's what we're looking for is maybe people can actually, perform a little bit more in government. That's rather than, okay, I've got a protest. And, I think we're a bit tired of that. I don't know, maybe I'm tired of it.
Right. Yeah, I think everyone's tired of protest votes. You're right. But, I mean, who knows now? The problem is now, as we stand, the priority, as far as we're all concerned, in terms of the majority, and I think certainly most of our viewers, is to defeat the SNP again in 2026. Sure. Their great strength in recent Holyrood elections has been in the constituency, as I say, because 62 seats they won last time out of 73. One, of course, has gone to Alba, Ash Regan. We will not defeat the SNP if people keep saying, I can't possibly vote Labour. Okay, guys, you don't vote Labour if you can't do it, but understand there's going to be a shootout exactly as it was in 44 seats out of 57 between Labour and the SNP. One will come first, the other will come second. If you're saying you're not going to vote Labour, you are handing almost certain victory to the SNP. I understand why you say it, but just be aware.
Well, I mean, Elizabeth there is the same. But it's a two-stage process. That's the best way to think about it. Yeah. It's like it's not a one and done. No. That we did it in the general election. We have to do it in the Holyrood election as well. Exactly. And then we've cleared them dead. You've got to put it when it's down, and then that's it. You don't give it another chance to get up again. Remember, you're in the playground, you're fighting some kid, and then he said, if they said, if you let me up, I won't batter you. Yeah. And then, of course, as soon as they're up, they batter you. Right? It's like, that's no good. We can't be doing that.
Exactly. And
I'm bringing up childhood memories.
I can tell you weren't much of a fighter, Mark.
I'm bringing up childhood memories. Look, I was winning that fight. I was winning it.
I have a friend who had a tactic in childhood fights, which was, I'm going to put a few on him so that he can't get up and hit me again. So fair enough. While he's down that,
I know.
Anyway, but just the last
too generous,
indeed. I was talking to a guy who's a Labour activist, semi-Labour activist last Friday, and he said, it could be here. Labour has taken this step to put all of their unpopular policy decisions right up front very early on.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah, true. In the hope that in 5 years' time people have forgotten it. But of course, what that could be doing is sacrificing 2026. And we discussed this, and he said, well, you remember though, the cause of independence traditionally has become more popular when the SNP's been in opposition, apart from, of course, the win after the independence referendum. But when the SNP loses an election, it seems that people start thinking, oh, we must get independence. And it's like they gain traction again. So
it's like protest. The protest becomes more important. Okay. Indeed. It's an interesting theory.
Well, I'm going to be talking about Russell Findlay and Conservatives next, so we'll keep it for that. But that could be another factor in what happens in the 26 elections.
Indeed. So to be discussed, because nobody knows, and we're all playing with conjecture. So yeah. Anyway, just a thought.
Well, I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, is it worth for Labour to keep SNP in power and control them that way? But for us,
we want them out.
We want them out. But okay, it's interesting. Something has to be thought. Some deep thought is required on that. Get the brain cells working.
Yeah, well, there's lots of time between now and then, and there will be many a slip and all the rest of it. So nothing's decided yet. It's very fluid. We'll see.
Well, this is another thing I'm a bit wary of in Ron here. Lee Anderson did say he wanted abolished, and there's been some, Ben Habib also said that as well. We have to be very careful it doesn't become a party political football, right? We have to basically say, look, that say Reform, take it on. And then, everyone else is like, it goes against it. And then Reform fails. And then, your devolution thing's gone. Your abolished devolution thing's gone. So we have to try and get more broad consensus among the parties that devolution needs to be reformed. And that includes the Labour Party. Most importantly, in fact, includes the Labour Party, because they're the ones that need to be convinced more than the Tories, who already are generally against it. So sure. We have to, be very wary of, someone promising you, oh, here, we'll do this, and then that's not going to go anywhere. Great. Yes, lots to think about, of course, in the run-up to this next election. Of course, one of the most important things is going to be how the Scottish Tories fare. Well, let's say it was a disaster, but they did hold on to their seats, but one. Douglas Ross, and nobody's really too bothered that he got the book anyway. So, Mary is going to be back with us in a second. She's going to be talking all about Russell Findlay.
Mark, if you could do the comments coming up. Speaking.
Right, okay.
I'm sure there'll be thousands coming in. Right, okay, so on Friday, Russell Findlay was voted leader of the Scottish Conservatives with 62% of the vote, beating Murdo Fraser on 29% and Megan Gallagher on 9%. So there were no surprises. Most people wanted Russell to win, as he's not seen as a career politician, and he's widely regarded as being smart, down to earth with a common sense approach. In other words, he stands out in Holyrood.
Right,
his background is as a crime journalist, writing investigative crime stories and books, writing about some of the most notorious figures in the Scottish crime world, which led at one point to him being attacked with acid on his doorstep. But he's keeping up the fight. He worked for the Sunday Mail for over 20 years, and he's only been an MSP for the West of Scotland since 2021. So I was very glad to see this week, since Friday, that he hasn't been wasting any time basically getting started on the job. On Friday, when he was elected leader, he said, "Under my leadership, we are going to change. We'll represent everyone who wants some common sense for a change."
Oh, there you go.
And he promised
it's a rare commodity.
He also promised to keep his promises.
Okay, we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
But, I mean, okay, irrespective.
Well, if he does, that would be fantastic. Anyway, he says on Saturday he appointed Rachel Hamilton as deputy leader, and then he met with King Charles at Holyrood to mark the 25th anniversary of the Scottish Parliament. On Sunday, I guess he was up early, and he was on the BBC Scotland saying, "Under my leadership, the Scots Tories will reconnect with decent, hard-working people across Scotland who don't feel that anybody represents them." Then he headed to the UK Conservative Conference, where he gave his first speech as party leader, saying, "The independence dream is dead."
Oh,
and
yes.
Then he had a wee chat with Rishi Sunak. So in the last couple of days, he's announced that he will stand up to nationalists to block Scottish independence being debated at Holyrood.
Oh, yes, this is interesting. Sorry, the wrong one here.
He said his MSPs will block SNP debates on independence and turn the discussion instead to working on solutions to the problems in our economy, schools, NHS, and all the other issues that people actually care about.
Yes, I think this is quite a good policy. I mean, David, what do you think?
I think he's made an exceptionally good start. I think he's said exactly the right thing in terms of his approach to any further discussion of independence. It is completely pointless. There is no point in taking up Holyrood time with it. He's an impressive guy. I mean, I predicted last week, as you remember, that he would win it comfortably, which of course he has. I think so far, it's a good start, and I do think he's right. There is no time in flogging the proverbial dead horse. It achieves nothing, and the Conservative Party is far better off having nothing to do with it. I like that it's a very different approach from the Punch and Judy. Vote SNP to get independence. No, don't do that. Vote Conservative. We will stop the SNP. Guys, please stop doing this.
Yes, I know. It's
driving us daft.
And it's just, and they wouldn't stop doing it. It didn't matter how many times we told them, said, "Don't, please stop doing this. This is not the way forward." He said, I think in this, I don't know if this is going into your section, but he said that he was, instead of going to appointing a minister for independence, to counter the Minister for Independence, he would just say, "Oh, it's a Minister for Housing" or something like that.
Yes.
This is like feels like a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
I know.
I mean, of course, we are implacably opposed to talk of a referendum. Anyway, but we don't want to be talking about. That's the point. We want to be talking about the actual issues that affect Scottish people, and everyone knows that maybe even for the Tories as well, certainly for the SNP, it's a distraction, but also for the Tories. It's been a big distraction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many times have I talked about the housing emergency in Scotland?
Absolutely right.
And there's no housing minister. So he's saying he's going to have a housing minister. He's saying an awful lot. It seems like very simple things that he's saying. Simple, straightforward, common sense things. Let's focus on the NHS, let's focus on the economy, things like that. Let's have a housing minister. It's not rocket science. He hasn't come up with any fantastic ideas.
No, but
he just wants to focus on the basics, which is the SNP aren't able to actually achieve the basics, so they have to mislead us and take us down another path to keep attention off there.
Yes.
And we met Russell Findlay. Mark and I met him a couple of weeks ago when he launched his candidacy in the leadership contest, and he talked to us about trying to revive the Scottish Tories to be as popular as when Ruth Davidson was in charge before she had her Brexit breakdown. Guys, do you think that the Tories can be revived in time for the elections?
My view, guys, no, in a word, simply because Davidson had the enormous advantages that she had a very unpopular SNP campaign where Sturgeon was still screaming about independence.
Yes.
And they lost a lot of seats and a lot of votes on the back of that. And of course, the other massive advantage Davidson had was that Jeremy Corbyn was the Labour leader, which was a huge boost to the Conservatives. So no, he won't have either of those advantages, sadly. He is talking a lot of sense. I like his approach so far. I'm due to be meeting with another group next week. So I'll tell you how that goes when I'm next year. But yes, he'll be a massive improvement on Douglas Ross. But the Conservative Party, the Scottish Conservatives will increase their vote share from the 12.7% they got 3 months ago, but they won't be anything like the 25% that they got 4 years or 3.5 years ago, unless Labour really does implode. But I can't see it.
No, I can't see that happening. But I wanted to address this Alan Cameron's thing. One of the things that Alan Cameron said, let's be truthful with ourselves, the Tories will never be a majority in Holyrood, no matter how good their policies are. I think one of the things that struck me about Russell Findlay was, if you say that to him, he'd say, no, I think we can actually do this. And he's not a negative person. He's like, if we, and you feel when he says that, you think, oh yeah, maybe it's possible, which is quite good, I think. But I do think this is the first early stages are one. Bolster your own troops. There were too long the Scottish Conservative Party fought against their own members, and not even their own members, the small C Conservatives in Scotland, and tried to go against them. The small C Conservatives in Scotland are pro-Brexit. They like Boris Johnson, for example, and they hated the idea that, and they don't want to separate the party from the UK party as well, and they hate the idea that this Tory establishment in Scotland was against all those things. It was anti-Brexit. It just looked down its nose. It's so, what's that word, condescending to the members. Looked down his nose at Brexit, looked down his nose at the ordinary members, looked down his, didn't Douglas Ross was the first in line to stick the knife into Boris Johnson, and so on. And if we just can get some decent leadership, then everyone can benefit from that, because we're not distracted by nonsense issues, really. But he has to bolster the people first of all, and once they just feel strong, then you can go out and try and widen the thing. And if the SNP do go down, yeah, it's possible it can become a two-party system again here, or an almost two-party system again in Scotland. It was Tory a long time ago as well, so it's not. There's political gravity is always there.
Indeed, just bear in mind, guys, the last time the Conservative Party in Scotland won a majority of the votes or the seats was 1955, which is what, 69 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, well, this is a long time ago. It's true, but we've had the rise of the SNP since then. There's nothing to say that a revitalised Conservative Party can't win again in Scotland, especially if someone perhaps like Mr. Finlay, who can perhaps connect to ordinary voters, the small C. That's what I said to him when I met him. I said we need to get to the small C Conservative voters, and you get them. And there's so many of them. Scotland's a conservative country, actually, in so many ways.
You say that. It's a conservative small C country, absolutely. The problem is the electorate in Scotland vote in such numbers that between 60 and 70% of the electorate votes either SNP or Labour in every election. That's his problem. What he needs to get is he needs to win back votes from the Labour Party, votes he just lost to the Labour Party 3 months ago. He's also going to have to take votes from the SNP, which is his real task, and he's going to have to see off reform. So there is very little prospect of the Conservative Party winning any election in Scotland in the immediate future.
I'm not talking about that. I'm saying it's a slow burn.
It would take a lot of change. It would take almost a root and branch change of the party. This fight, our ex-colleague, Mary, I better not name him, described, and forgive me here, our ex-colleague described the Scottish Conservative Party as a bunch of gay Remainers. That was his and he's an insider. He actually is very close to that. That's quite pejorative. It's not a particularly nice thing to say, but that's the reputation that the Scottish Conservative Party has, and that's how their thinking appears to be, that they represent a lot of minority interests and they want to scrap Brexit. You're not going to win an election in Scotland.
No.
You won't. So,
but but there's a long way to go, and there's a long way. I don't expect anything serious to happen within the next 8 years. But a week is a long time in politics.
Indeed.
Same things happen anyway. Yep. Anyway, moving on. What we got? That was good section. That's Mary's section. Right, Mary, you want to wrap up that one?
No, we're good.
Right. Okay, very good. All right. Things you can do now to support the show. You can buy a T-shirt or a mug at the Majority shop, and you get 10% off if you use the coupon, and a little bit of the money comes to support the show. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube. If you're a new viewer here and see many new people here, thanks to Craig's influence, then please do subscribe, and you'll get this amazing anti-nationalist perspective on Scottish politics every week at 7 p.m. You can't get it anywhere else. You get a bunch of fake Tories talking about it, or just so much fakery around. It's nonsense. We're not fakes.
We're the real thing.
Yeah, it's the real deal. Okay, and of course you can we did subscribe. You can please tell your friends about us. Excuse me, and you can also do all of the above, which makes us feel extremely happy and fulfilled. Underlined exclamation mark. Coming up, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It is the highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the week.
Yay!
I'll get back to my wee thing. Okay. Right, mine is supposed to be done in the style of so.
I hope everyone watches Grand Designs.
Who doesn't watch Grand Designs?
Okay, everyone watches.
I'm Kevin McLeod, and today's Grand Designs will be following the progress of East Dunbartonshire Council as they build affordable council houses. And there is such a need in these times for housing that benefits us all. Good design, good sense. But will the project succeed, or will they go over budget? Let's see. In keeping with the highest of green standards, let's have a look. In keeping with the highest of green standards, the council has decided to use the passive house concept, which aims to keep heating costs down. But the passive house method is expensive. And is it really necessary? 3 months in, and the council is saying things will improve when they install the government-approved heat pumps. Sadly not. They were expensive too. Oh, that well in the Scottish climate. But these buildings are stunning. They even include what the council is calling a home office and an electrical vehicle charging point.
Wow.
And what about the budget? The all-consuming budget. Did the council manage to keep these affordable homes well affordable?
£8 million. For
what?
For 15 homes, £8 million.
£8 million, but that is £535, £800.
£535,800 per house.
For an affordable council house in Dumbarton. So there you have it. Some might say a fool and his money are soon parted. But who are we to say what is beauty and what is not? What is good value and what is not? Don't we all deserve to live in beautiful passive house homes with heat pumps and electric car chargers at the taxpayer's expense? Dream, dear viewer, dream. Multiple fools may have been parted from their money, but if those fools are us, are we really fools or merely the fooled? Or is East Dumbartonshire Council my Zimmer of the week?
That's outrageous. £535,000 to build a council house.
Can I just point out one thing, guys, in mitigation here? East Dumbartonshire is not Dumbarton. Dumbarton is West Dumbartonshire.
Yes, I know.
East Dumbartonshire is Lenzie and Bearsden. It probably is.
Yes, I know.
But nonetheless, an affordable council house is not £500,000, whatever the location. So, you know.
This is the actual picture of the house. That is the actual picture of them there.
Well, I hope that's not the finished picture.
With the gold plating, I think, in a gold-plated toilets. You know that? Remember that place had the gold toilet?
Got stolen?
Got stolen, yeah. That's what they've got in there. What is that about?
Why would it cost 500? I mean, if it's 535,000 to build one,
yes. Is it going to be?
If that was a normal house that you were building, I mean, and you were selling it, you would be hoping to sell it for maybe 700,000 or something.
A lot more than that. I mean, if you take the normal ratio, the cost of rebuilding a house is nothing like the sale value. There's nothing like it's a fraction. It's about a fifth at most. So that means every one of these houses would be worth what?
2.5 million.
It's absolutely nuts. It's absolutely crazy.
Yep. Anyway.
I mean, they say that they'll make it up because of the tenants. Well, I mean, who's going to? That's what they say on the thing. They say it's it will be ultimately the outlay would be ultimately repaid by tenants.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
What's the rent going to be? How much is the rent going to be
in there?
These things?
You know.
Yeah, quite.
Maybe if you put one of your cannabis farms, you know, like your tenants have, maybe repay the bill.
Yeah, maybe there's going to be a lot of heating and lighting going on in there.
Yes.
Someone's asking to get painted windows.
Unbelievable. You can't believe
Maybe they just think everything costs $500 million. You know, ferries cost $500 million, houses cost $500 million. You know,
it's absolutely crazy. Anyway, that was my Zoomer. Next up is going to be David's Zoomer. And of course, there's plenty of competition. Mary's coming up at the end of this segment. And we'll see what she's got.
Oh, yeah.
Right, David, who have you got? Let's guess.
Well, my Zoomer of the week is a female I've chosen many times previously. It's Maggie Chapman, the Greens. This is not the first time, as I say, Ms. Chapman has been nominated by me for a variety of misdemeanors, but this week she made a thoroughly reprehensible contribution to a Holyrood debate led by my true friend in Holyrood, Conservative MSP Tess White. Hi, Tess, if you're listening. And the subject was the protection of women-only categories in sport. This came after the row this summer, you'll all remember, when two boxers of, shall we say, questionable gender won female boxing gold medals in the Olympics. Now, one of whom was especially massively physically superior to all of her opponents, so much so that one poor girl only lasted one punch before she said, I can't take this, and stopped. So Chapman's input to the debate, and this, remember, is a debate about protecting women's rights in sport so that women can compete against women in sport. This was Chapman's input. Do you have it there, Mark?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes. Okay, hold on. Here we go.
I cannot celebrate the motion we have before us, nor the debate this evening. Both this and Tess White's previous motion on the same subject echo the most toxic narratives, with elements of them unfounded in fact, discriminatory in effect, and deeply damaging to both trans and cisgender women and girls in sport and in our communities. I strongly commend the briefing from Leap Sports Scotland for its excellent analysis of the true position. And I thank Karen Adam for her spirited and principled amendment to that first motion. That amendment rightly calls out the torrent of misogynistic abuse faced by the two Olympic boxers, cis women, incidentally, and both women of colour, It identifies the political motivations of the attacks upon them and calls upon parliamentarians and others to counter the disinformation that threatens the safety of female athletes, threatens the safety, I would add, of women everywhere. That's why I'm here this afternoon. There are people watching this debate and people who will hear it reported who are understandably afraid.
Okay. Is that enough?
One sec, listen to this last bit.
Okay.
Non-binary people, intersex people, women who do not conform to conventional, Eurocentric or white assumptions of body shape, demeanour or dress. People who fear that they will be next to people, intersex people, women who do not conform to conventional, Eurocentric or white assumptions of body shape, demeanour or dress. People who fear that they will be next to face exclusion, rejection.
Oh, now I know why you chose this one.
Exactly. So just to go over that, for those of you who maybe didn't hear that all, she's saying that this is a toxic narrative. Protection of women-only spaces in sport is toxic, apparently. It's damaging to trans and cisgender women and girls in sport, blah, blah, blah. And what Chapman is saying is anybody who called out to effectively male-looking boxers for knocking women out is misogynistic. That's misogyny, apparently. I don't know how you get that.
What's dangerous to them is getting beaten by a man.
Exactly. But then she went on to say, and the key line, as Mark said there, was women will be afraid. Women who do not conform to conventional, Eurocentric or white assumptions of body shape will be afraid. So there it is. If you speak out against somebody who looks like a man knocking 7 shades out of a woman in a boxing ring, you are not only misogynistic, but you're also racist. You are.
I mean, it's after a point, it doesn't make any sense anymore. You know, it's like you're just like, well, you're going to call me racist anyway, whatever. You know, it's who cares? It's meaningless. It's it doesn't make any. It's not. And this whole thing, this cis women that she uses all the way through, they're women.
Women, exactly. Cisgender women, exactly. Her point is she's trying to say, oh, this isn't just discrimination against trans women, it's also against women. Yeah,
well, she's discriminating against women.
Quite.
In the actual thing there.
Exactly. So Tess White, you probably know Tess White is in a same-sex relationship, as a lot of MPs are, as a lot of women who put forth the protection of women's rights tend to be same-sex, they tend to be lesbians, and they're hated by the pro-trans lobby. It is utterly bizarre. I've never seen such opprobrium levelled against women and lesbians. It's unbelievable that this is going on, guys. It really is. It's like a perversion of the entire.
Well, that's the job. Is to pervert our lives, as it were, with their perversions.
But this is real. But as you said, it makes no sense. This is real. It's like a David Lynch movie. It's insane. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Everything's backwards. You know, you stick up for women, you're a misogynist, right? Okay. Well, for that idiotic line and that outburst, Maggie, yet again, you're my Zoomer.
No, it's pretty strong, I have to say. Pretty strong, but I mean, there is.
I don't like the competition here.
Yes, but next up is going to be Mary's Zoomer, and we'll see how that goes. Right, Mary, you're up.
Okay, my nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Humza Yousaf.
Oh, God.
Who we've already been talking about, but this is who was speaking on Al Arabiya News, of course, saying he is ready to debate with Elon Musk anytime, any place, anywhere. Right. You know, I really honestly, when I was writing this afternoon, I couldn't stop laughing. Just thinking about Humza Yousaf actually trying to debate with Elon Musk.
Right, let's have a look at this clip then. Okay, what's he saying?
He did, in fact, say these words to his some nearly 200 million followers. Did that make you consider legal recourse, some kind of official reprimand? Would you do that?
Which he already said he would.
Well, look, there's always the legal avenue that's open to us, but I've always said, from my perspective, I'm happy to debate and challenge Elon Musk. Perhaps you can moderate that debate. I'm more than happy to debate him anytime, any place, anywhere. Like him, I believe in free speech, but free speech is not absolute. It has its limits, and you cannot incite violence in the way that Elon Musk has and not expect there to be any consequences. And let's be frank.
You know, it's the but, isn't it? It's the I believe in free speech, but. It's like, no, you don't then if you say but. That's the point of the whole thing of it.
Well, basically, I mean, trying to debate with Elon Musk, it would basically be like an intellectual giant versus an intellectual pygmy.
Absolutely.
Listen, no offense to pygmies, because I'm sure they're a lot smarter than Humza used to have. And you may have noticed that Humza seems to have dropped his threats of legal action against Musk pretty rapidly.
He said, he say that. He said, "Oh yeah, the legal course is still open to us," which means no, it's not.
Well, I think someone's had a word with him and told him he's a few billion short in his legal war chest if he's trying to do that.
Exactly.
So,
but I don't see. I mean, this is the first part of it's quite funny. It's like, you're not upset that that Elon Musk posted out to 200 million people that you're a racist. A blatant racist. That's what he said.
And then he said that him and Elon had things in common.
What in common? I don't know if they've got anything in common at all.
Well, I just wonder if Elon, with his list of priorities this week, he's sending rockets to Mars, and he's got his electric car empire, and he's. I think this week he's actually busy trying to get the USA back on the internet after Storm Helene.
Yes, that's right. Give it to Starlink.
But he's going to be penciling in a date to have his debate with Humza.
That's right.
And as Humza suggested, it could be on Al Arabia News. I'm sure that's where Elon would love to debate.
But Elon might actually be up for a debate, to be honest, because he trashed the guy.
Yeah,
I mean, it
would be too easy. Anyway, Humza is the Zoomer's Zoomer.
Oh,
yes.
Zoomer, right. Okay, so David.
Yep. Am I deciding? Goodness.
Yeah, you're deciding, yes. I decided I didn't want to decide, so I'm going to let you decide.
Right, well, traditionally I never pick myself. So
you can, of course.
No, you have to, or it's not a fair competition.
Choose himself.
There's only three of us. So.
Indeed, but what I would say, guys, is, as you know, Mary, when we discussed it earlier, I had initially planned to pick Humza for his latest speech last night, where he talked about if people in Gaza had blonde hair and blue eyes and were white skinned, then everybody would be up in arms, which sounds an awful lot like yet another racist outburst. So anyway,
it's not just that, it's that Israel did have many kids. In fact, they're still holding kids. It's almost a year now, right? It's 5 days to go until the year. Still holding babies.
Exactly right.
Exactly. White babies, you might say. Doesn't matter what colour they are. It's bad enough what they're being held. Anyway, I mean, so it's just what is this guy on? What is he on?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what inspires him to make these outbursts. He just makes himself look absurd. But I don't imagine he's going to stay in MSP beyond next a week and a year come May anyway. So, okay. So anyway, given all that, then people, I'm very tempted to pick Maggie Chapman, but no, I'm going to leave it. Humza has to get it. He has to get it for repeated nonsense. So well done, Mary.
Well, I think Humza deserves it for a number of issues this week, especially.
He's an imbecile. That's what it comes down to. He's an absolute imbecile, and it's a stain on the people of Scotland that he was able to rise to that position. And actually, of course, that's a stain on one hand, but also, he complained about racism. He got to the top position. What kind of racism is that?
I know.
Great
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Anyway, right, Mary, another worthy winner. Well done, you. Very good. All right. And my Kevin McLeod impersonation wasn't that great.
Oh, that wasn't bad at all. Apparently, I'm supposed to look like Kevin McLeod, and also he's supposedly the guy all your wives fancy. I don't know if that means he's somebody who appeals to bigamists. All your wives.
Right. Okay. Well, you're not.
I thought your performance was good, Mark. I really did.
Very good indeed. Yes.
Please keep it coming. Anyway, all right. We are so happy to have you with us on Scotland's #1 politics chat. We will see you again, same place, same time, next Wednesday. My thought for the week is, what's that?
At 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m. I can't get past this sentence. I don't know what it is. Any thought for the week is it's looking more and more like Scottish nationalism was a test to see how gullible and stupid Scots could be. Too many Scots, though, failed this test, and I'll leave you to ponder why. Thank you for your comments and support for the show. Please do like, subscribe, follow, donate if you can, buy a t-shirt, whatever, all that. I'd like to thank, huge thanks to Craig Houston for coming on earlier. And of course, thanks to David for his insights, and to Mary for doing all the chats. And
thank you, everyone, for your comments. Thank you
as well. So we will see you again next week. Thank you and take care.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
See you next week.